Hello and welcome to That Shooting Show. My name's Steve Anderson. I am your humble host. On the road doing some traveling right now, and we'll be headed to Brazil tomorrow for 2 weeks of classes in Brazil, hosted by my buddy Guilherme, who famously coined the term mentalizing. After one of his great matches, I was talking to him and he said, "All I did was mentalize my stage over and over and over again, and it went great." Sorry about the accent. It's the closest I can do on short notice. But I do want to thank our partners before we get any further. Walther, as you know, is the title sponsor of this program and of AndersonShooting.com. And I just want to remind you that the Walther Steel Frame PDP is the finest production type firearm I have ever handled or shot. It's everything you like about a heavy gun with none of the drawbacks of the other heavy guns. You get the same great trigger pull every time. You get amazing reliability, and you also get a 30-day money-back guarantee. Yeah, it's really that simple. Go check out a Walther Steel Frame PDP. I promise you, you will love it. Or Walther will give you your money back. Simple as that. I also want to thank Targets USA, finest steel targetry on the planet. CR Speed, as you know, makes the finest gun handling gadgetry that you can wrap around your waist or anywhere else. The AMG-Lab.com Commanderson timer continues to turn heads and blow minds by putting the time into the tablet. And Hunter's HD Gold, as you know, is the only eyewear that I wear. And you can see that I are wearing it right now like I always do. OutdoorDynamics.net remanufactures the finest competition ammunition you can dispense from a Freedom Seed dispenser. And we had a guy come to the range, when was that? A couple days ago. And his reloads were having a problem. He had 2 squibs in the first half hour. Very random reloading problem. Not to worry, I went up to the porch, got my OutdoorDynamics.net ammo, and he was able to shoot the entire day on my range in Newark, Ohio with OutdoorDynamics.net ammunition, 0 squibs, 0 problems of any kind. And of course, ShootingSportsInnovations.com is a lot to type because there's a lot to see when you finally get done typing. So we have 2 questions to address today. One of them is regarding stage planning with reduced walkthrough times, and we'll get to that shortly. The other one I have here, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Hi there, I have a question that maybe can be explained in one of your videos. At major matches, how to overcome the fear of the first stage. Some people shoot it very conservative. I also see a lot of people messing it up." So I was thinking about this, and I was really going to attempt to do a different podcast. I thought, this is great. Somebody has a question, and I'm going to be able to do a different show than I always do. And then I did the notes for it, and it's going to wind up being exactly the same. So here we are again. I'm doing what feels like the same podcast that I've done hundreds of times, and maybe it is. But every time I say that out loud, somebody says to me, please keep doing them. So here's how we're going to address both of those issues. Number one, well, I have a whole outline we'll get to here in a minute. I want you to resist the temptation to shoot conservatively on the first stage. And we'll come back to that here in a minute. But anytime you consciously control your speed, you do not get access to your skills. What happens there is the conscious mind is required to meter out whatever level of speed you think is appropriate for a conservative first stage. That's not where your skills live. Now, ironically, under-trying will produce a slightly better result than over-trying, but it won't be your best performance. And if the first stage is a big stage in USPSA or IPSC with a lot of points available on it, that's not the one you want to under-try on. Now, if you've historically over-tried, you may find some benefit in dialing it back a little bit, but just bear in mind, it will be a little bit better than rush, try, hurry, but it will never be top performance. So this is all about how to get top performance, okay? So first stage jitters, I don't think it ever really is going to go away, meaning you're always going to be a little bit more I don't really like the term anxious. You're going to be a little bit more jittery, right? And that's just because you're doing something important. And if it's a form of pressure, right, then I want to remind you that pressure can only amplify what you are thinking and feeling. So, yes, first stage jitters, we'll talk about that pretty specifically. We'll also talk about what to do with a short walk through time, and that will result in pretty much the same podcast I've done hundreds of times. That's okay. People tell me to keep doing them because they like them. That's what I'm going to do because I don't know how to do anything else. So, here's what you got to do. Well, number one, if you haven't done the mental management class, that's going to be mandatory. We're finishing up one this evening, and then I don't have another online mental management class scheduled because I'm going to be doing so much traveling, but we will get one of those scheduled very shortly so you can take advantage of all of that. So, but in lieu of that, we'll give you the best information we can. Number one, as soon as you are signed up for a match, decide how you want to feel before you get there. Choose and rehearse how you want to feel when you get to this match. Nobody wants to be scared. Nobody wants to be anxious. You probably want to be calm and confident. So choose and rehearse feeling that way. If you're going to a different range you've never been to, look up the range. Find pictures of it, find videos of it, get familiar with it before you get there. This will all contribute to helping you feel more comfortable when you arrive. But the most important thing, decide how you want to feel and rehearse feeling that way. The next thing I want you to do that you probably won't do, but I'm going to ask you to do it anyway, is write down an objective within your control. I'll give you an example. I'm going to go to this match and create a subconscious stage plan and call every shot. That is what you are going to do. Or you could say, get some number of reps of my stage plan and see what I need to see. When you write down an objective within your control, you will feel anxiety being reduced almost immediately because you know what you are going to do. You've decided how you want to feel and you've decided what you are going to do. Okay? If you've been keeping a journal, go back and read about your best performances to remind yourself what you've learned about shooting your best. If you don't have a journal, you can't really do that, but you can reflect on the last great stage or match you can remember. And when you look at your journal or when you think about your last great stage or match, you'll probably find that you weren't thinking very much while you were shooting. You'll find that you weren't worried about the results for whatever reason, and you'll probably find a higher level of confidence. So you'll probably discover that you shot pretty subconsciously without worrying about the results. Notice I didn't say not thinking about the results, because that's sort of unavoidable and something that you care about, but you've got to find a way not to be worried about the results, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Number two, competition anxiety is fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen. What if, what if, what if, what if? And deciding what you are going to do is the closest you will ever get to controlling what happens. In a proactive sport like shooting, you have almost complete control of your performance. Outside of moving targets, when I wrote that down, I was trying to think, compare it to boxing, for example. You are not in control of what your opponent does in boxing. If you play basketball, you're not in control of what the competition does. But in a proactive sport like shooting, you have almost complete control of your performance. And notice I didn't say results because you can never be in complete control of the results, but you are in almost complete control of your performance. And I would say that's 99.9%. Again, outside of moving targets, and those can be controlled too, right? But in a proactive sport like shooting, you are in complete control. The other thing you need to do is control the short-term imprints to your self-image. Your self-image is the filing cabinet where every thought you have ever had about your shooting gets deposited. And the most important ones are the ones that are created in the short term. So let's say you have a history of struggling on the first stage. I tend to screw up the first stage. You've got a lot of files of that idea. If you can change the file that gets deposited in your self-image on a short-term basis, hey, this is the first stage, this is what I'm going to do, and I know I can do it. That short-term imprint can be a fact long enough to get you through the stage. Over time, that imprint will fade to whatever's a normal imprint for you regarding your performance, but short term, you can change it, and that change can be factual long enough to get through the stage. Okay? The next thing I need you to do that I've talked about a bunch is to pre-accept the results. And you may know, but I'll tell you again, here's your options. I don't care. That's one option you've got for pre-accepting the results. That's a very difficult one to get to. It is what it is another option you've got to pre-accept the results. Hey, I'm going to this big match. It is what it is. Let's see how I do. The other one you can choose is I'll do well by X. I'm going to this big match. I'm going to do well by getting a subconscious stage plan, calling every shot. If you combine I'll do well with that objective we just talked about that's within your control, you'll find anxiety reduced a bunch. The other option you've got for pre-accepting the results is I'm likely to win. If you know that and you believe it, that's a great way to pre-accept the results. But if you don't know it and you don't believe it, do not attempt to fake it. Every one of you that wins your local match every time knows it before you go. And you also know that before that started happening, you couldn't fake it. So don't try to fake pretending you're going to win. That's very, very important. I'll do well, or it is what it is much easier to get to. Now, when you arrive at the stage, don't care how long you have. I don't care if you have an hour or if you've got 3 minutes. Devote all of your time to creating a confident stage plan. 100% of that time. When I go to coach matches, I see people complaining about walkthrough time, and I see them wasting their walkthrough time. I see them complaining about the weather. I see them watching other shooters. I listen to them thinking about the results or the weather or their competition or some other stage plan idea. This is the definition of overthinking. When you arrive at your stage, you have one job: create a subconscious stage plan with confidence. And the reason that confidence is so important is that your opinion of your stage plan is crucial. If you don't like your stage plan or you're afraid of something in the stage, this will limit your subconscious access to your plan and your skill. Right? If you're afraid of the stage or you hate your plan, you're not going to get access to it. Not at the level you could if you find a way to create some confidence in that process. And you guys know this is true. When you go back and think about the stages that have gone really well for you, you had a great plan and you loved it. If you go back and think about plans you hated or stages you were afraid of, they didn't go as well because the short-term imprint is, I'm very likely to struggle with this plan. And that shows up in your performance. Okay? And if something is difficult in the stage, remind yourself it'll be difficult for everyone, specifically inside your division and your class. Right? If you shoot, well, we only have 2 revolver shooters listening to this program, but if a stage isn't particularly friendly for your division, guess what? It's going to be the same for everybody in your division. If something's hard for single stack, it's going to be hard for every single stack shooter there. Okay? And if something is difficult, solve it with strategy to the best of your ability. There's something in this stage that's difficult. What am I going to do within my control to maximize my chances of success? A great example is the 37-yard poppers at Handgun Nationals. Okay, 37-yard poppers will be solved with sight and trigger. The best chance you've got of taking down a 6 or 7 37-yard poppers, however many there were, sight and trigger is the best chance you've got of being successful. So solve it with strategy to the best of your ability. And if you are consistently seeing things that you just can't do, you've got to learn to do them in training. And you've got to control your opinion of the training process regarding these specific skills, right? If you struggle with a hands-up draw, Well, you're probably not a steel challenge shooter, but if you struggle with a hands-up draw or a turn and draw or one-handed shooting, you need to learn to be able to do these things. If the sport requires it and you're going to play the sport, it's your job to learn how to do those things. And you've got to control your opinion of the training process as you're working on these skills. That's absolutely critical. Do not try to outsmart that. If you're working on one-handed shooting, say, hey, my one-handed shooting's getting better. You don't have to say I'm the best one-handed shooter on the planet, but you do have to say my one-handed shooting is improving. Because every thought you have about your training process jumps in your range bag and goes with you to the match. I'm drilling one-handed shooting, but I still suck. That idea will go with you to the match. I'm drilling one-handed shooting, and I'm getting better every time. That idea will go with you to the match. Okay? And if time is limited, for whatever reason, create the simplest stage plan you can as quickly as possible. And if time is really limited, go here and shoot what you see with planned reloads sometimes is the best you can do. But the longer you take to decide, the less time you'll have to prepare. And that's true regardless of how much time you have. Sometimes if walkthroughs time is a little bit longer, people wait way too long to decide. And this causes brain farts. If I'm trying to decide whether to go left and I get 10 reps of that, and then I change my mind, decide to go to the right, I get 10 reps of that, and then I say, screw it, I'll just start in the middle, and I've got 10 reps of that, a brain fart is in your future because you have fragments of different plans in your memory. So if stage walk time is limited, create the simplest plan you can as quickly as possible. Go here and shoot what you see can be effective if time is limited, particularly in IPSC. Anytime I see IPSC stages, and this is just general, they tend to be a little bit simpler than USPSA stages, and they tend to have less options. That's just a gross overgeneralization of that. One difference would be IPSC's a little bit more likely to start anywhere, and starting anywhere can complicate this process quite a bit. But if walkthrough time is limited, create the simplest stage plan you can as quickly as possible and use your time wisely. If they're only going to give you 3 minutes, you better use 3 minutes very, very wisely. And you've got to understand that your only goal is to create a subconscious stage plan. This can only happen with repetition of the same plan. This can only happen with repetition of the same plan. The best analogy is driving. If you're looking at your navigation or if you're old school and you're reading a map, you can drive while you're reading a map, but you can't drive very well. And you certainly can't read the map very well and drive very well at the same time. But when you know the route, you don't need the map. So what you're doing is you're memorizing your route so you don't need to refer to the map. And when you're getting repetitions of your stage plan, visualized reps are better than physical reps. Well, there's 12 guys on my squad and I can't get in there and look at it. Well, figure out something you can remember, memorize it, and then get as many reps as you can mentalized, right? Like Guilherme would say, the mentalized reps are better than physical reps because they're identical and you can get more of them. And the visualized reps need to be silent with the only possible exception of round count. If the stage has any kind of memory element, you got to make sure the round count is in the plan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Get to that magic number every time. And I didn't put this in my outline, but do not ever walk a stage without knowing the round count and the start position. If you don't know the round count and or the start position, you're wasting your time. And this should go without saying, but we're going to say it anyway. Resist the temptation to change your plan unless you can get an overwhelming number of reps of the modified plan. That's still going to be risky, but do not ever consider it unless you can get more reps of so let's say you have 50 reps of your plan and you need to change it. It's probably going to take 100 reps of the new plan to override the old one. meaning you'll have to do some number of reps just to get rid of the old one, and then another number of reps to get the new one completely subconscious. Changing your stage plan is very likely to create brain farts unless you can get an overwhelming number of reps. And there is no need to watch other shooters before you. There's no need to do that. Thinking about it right now, I don't really see an upside. I have to think about that a lot. But I don't really see an upside for the vast majority of competition shooters watching the other shooters shoot. And if you're conflicted about your stage plan, that's a problem. If you watch somebody else shoot a different stage plan, now you're going to be even more conflicted. And all of this is going to damage your confidence, which is going to damage your execution. Okay? When you get to the line, I want you to make ready like a GM. This only applies to USPSA and Steel Challenge, because I know in IDPA and IPSC you won't be allowed to do this. But USPSA Steel Challenge, I want you to do a controlled presentation to an acceptable sight picture. Don't try to do a full speed draw, because if you miss your grip, that's a pretty bad short-term imprint to your self-image. Ooh, I just missed my grip. It's not what you want to be thinking about. Do a controlled, correct presentation to an acceptable sight picture. I like to dry fire the first target if I can see it a couple of times, because I'm imprinting this is what I'm going to see and this is what I'm going to do. I know you can't dry fire an IDPA and IPSC. I get it. And then when you load the gun, also do that, controlled and correctly. Please don't try to do a full speed mag change when you load your gun. If something goes wrong with that, it's going to be a difficult thought to shake. But if you get it correctly, when you load the gun correctly, it's extremely good for your short-term confidence. And then as you're waiting for the start tone, or sometime before that, you've got to choose an occupation for the conscious mind. You've got to pick something to think about to allow access to the subconscious skill and the plan. You've got to do that. And we've talked about this numerous times. We're not going to get too deep into this today, but everybody shoots their best when they're not thinking. And choosing one thing to think about is the closest you're ever going to get to thinking about nothing. Thinking about nothing on demand is not possible. It's not reliable. And so that's the wrong goal. Just think about nothing. Yeah, try that at stage 1 of the world shoot. Just think about nothing. But if you choose something to think about, it can be a picture, it can be a word. I like things, as you know, that focus on vision. I will see what I need to see is a great thing to think about. Center the dot, call the shot is a great thing to think about. It's the only way to get access to subconscious skill and a subconscious stage plan. Because if you're thinking about the plan while you're shooting, you're not going to shoot as well as when it's completely subconscious. When it's over, reinforce specifically what you did if you got what you wanted. If you had a good run or a great run, reinforce what you did as opposed to what happened. If you burn it down, that's great. Burning it down is not duplicable. Subconscious stage plan, acceptable sight picture is duplicable. And if that worked to burn down stage 1, there's a great chance it'll work to burn down stage 2. And if you didn't get what you wanted, identify and reinforce the correction or the solution. A temporary lapse of visual patience is the most likely problem for intermediate to advanced shooters, and it's also the easiest one to solve. And a temporary lapse of visual patience might be the only problem you can correct between stage 1 and stage 2. It's certainly the easiest problem to correct. For example, if somebody has a trigger pull issue or a grip issue, that's difficult to fix in between a chronic trigger pull or grip issue. It's pretty tough to fix between stage 1 and stage 2. But a temporary lapse of visual patience is easy to fix between stage 1 and stage 2. And make sure you have a definition of a good run so you know when you've had one. Now, that might seem overly simplistic, but think about it. How do you know when you've had a good run? Well, when I win the stage. Well, if you're the first shooter, you're not going to know whether you've won the stage or not. So you still need to know when you had a good run so you know when you've had one. And if you're one of these guys that's never happy with your runs, that's why you're having consistency problems, because you're never happy. And because you're never happy, you don't know what to do. And do not discuss any mistake you make on a stage. Do not discuss it with anyone. Don't talk about it. Instead, talk about the short-term solution. If you stink up the stage, I don't want you to talk about it with anybody else. Certainly not even to yourself. Talk instead about the short-term solution. And again, the most likely problem is going to be, well, lack of subconscious stage plan will be a problem. The other problem will be a temporary lapse of visual patience. You got more interested in pulling the trigger than you did seeing what you need to see. But resist the temptation to talk about your mistakes. That is literally what causes the wheels to fall off. Okay? And if you're ever tempted to overtry, if you're ever tempted to rush, try, hurry, or apply some extra effort, I want you to go back and think about how often that's worked. You can occasionally apply some extra effort and hook up, but that's normally going to be closer to 100% than 110%. Meaning if your confidence level is really high, you might be experiencing 100% of your skill maybe for the first time ever. Sometimes people confuse that with rush, try, hurry. But again, when you're tempted to really overtry, go back and think about how often it's worked. If it works that great and you know it works, knock yourself out. But I promise you that won't be the case. The problem with undertrying and overtrying is they both activate the conscious mind, which denies access to your trained skill. Meaning anytime you're using the conscious mind to perform a skill, you don't get access to the training that you've done. That's why people tend to screw up draws and reloads when they think about them. When they think about classifiers. If you're really thinking about the draw and or the reload on a classifier, it's not going to go very well. But if you visualize, mentalize getting it right, and choose something else for the conscious mind to do, you'll get whatever reload and draw you've earned in training. Okay? All right, let's go back over this and make sure I got everything covered that I want to cover. I'm pretty sure I did. One more word about pressure. Pressure is your reward for being a serious competitor. And because the event is important, you're going to feel pressure. You don't need to reason with it. You don't need to understand it, although you probably will. You just need to understand that the only thing pressure can do is amplify what you are thinking and feeling. And when you learn to control what you're thinking and feeling, you can control what pressure does. My best clients shoot better when they're feeling pressure, and they don't shoot as well when they're not feeling pressure. So they look forward to the pressure that they know they're going to feel because they've learned that it helps them shoot their best. Okay, hope you've enjoyed today's program. I'll be doing social media updates from Brazil. And until we meet again in Brazil or anywhere else, be like me, do what I do, say it with me. 1, 2, 3, get to work.